Hey family, I have been, I've had this on my heart for some time now, and I already started talking about it in the two books that I've written so far. I have written my memoir, for those of you who know, and I have also written another book entitled How to Know, How to Determine if you're in an abusive relationship. And this has been birthed from what I went through in my marriage. As some of you may know, I'm currently on separation, pending divorce, and in dealing with everything that was going on in my marriage and talking to people and even in my counseling. Again, as some of you may know, I'm a psychosocial counselor and I ran a practice that where I offer online counseling. In dealing with my own personal issues in my marriage and also talking to people, it it came to my attention how widespread the things that I was going through are, and how and this is it's actually world over. Initially, when I started talking to people within my country, I was thinking it's just an African thing, but it isn't. It's world over. Because as I've been speaking about this more and more, I've been having more interactions with people around the world, different countries, African countries, European countries. We've been having interactions, and this is just something it's everywhere. This thing that I'm talking about is emotional neglect in marriages. Emotional neglect, which results into emotional abuse, financial abuse, mental abuse. We already know about physical abuse and infidelity. Those things are talked about. We know about these things, and it's almost like when a person is in a marriage and they're going through this, you know that this is wrong, and it's just a matter of helping the person find a way of coming out of that. But what we haven't been speaking about is emotional neglect and abuse. And this is because it's something that's not easy to recognize. And I say this from my personal experience and also from, like I said earlier, talking to people, interacting with people, and researching. I've also been doing a lot of research on this matter. It's not something that you can point out to and say, this is what the person is doing, because neglect is actually something that a person doesn't do. So because something a person doesn't do, it's not easy to say, to point out. Say a person, you're in a relationship and a person is not consistently. This is happening on a consistent basis, not once in a while because you're human and sometimes you're just overwhelmed with life. But this is consistently happening. A person does not pay attention to your emotional needs. It's not easy to articulate that to someone else and say, oh, this person is not paying attention to my emotional needs, unless you know about it beforehand. But because it's something that we don't talk about, we don't realize that this is actually something not right in a relationship. And this is happening too much. And the thing with emotional neglect is that it breaks down your sense of self-worth. When you're neglected emotionally, it breaks down your sense of self-worth. You begin to think, maybe I'm not worth being paid attention to. Maybe I'm not worth being loved. Or maybe I need to do more for this person to love me. Being loved becomes something that you get because of what you're giving. And that is a totally wrong basis for love. Love should be given unconditionally. That's why when we talk about love in a relationship, we talk about you need to know the good and the bad of the person and be able to love them in spite of the bad. Because actually, in the bad is where love is really needed. Anyone can love anyone when they're nice. Love is real love when a person is at their worst. Now, if you are only able to receive love when you're good, yeah. Over the next however many weeks that the Lord allows us, I would like us to dive into this a bit more and just talk about it. Because another big thing that I have encountered in the Christian circles is this thing of God hates divorce. So people should not get divorced no matter what's going on in the marriage because God hates divorce. And I'm here to refute that because we have a loving Father and a Father who is a Father of justice. He hates injustice. And when someone is neglecting you emotionally in a relationship, that's injustice because you vowed to love your spouse. So when you're not giving them emotional support that they need, you're neglecting your vows. And God hates that. I'm going to get into that a bit more. I know I'm going to burst a few bubbles and even encounter a few, what shall I call it? It will raise a lot of hairs, so to speak, but I believe this is something that we need to deal with. We need to deal with because I know for certain that there are an awful number of people who are going through the most in marriages and they feel like they can't leave because God hates divorce. I'll be taking some time to also read some of the stuff that I've written in my second book, and we'll just walk through that over the next number of weeks. I don't know how many, as the Lord leads. And I will also, me and a few friends have also come together and open up a group where people can join and we discuss these things a bit more in person. And so if you're interested in that, if you feel like you're in a marriage and you're going through stuff that you feel like you have no one to talk to, reach out and we'll add you to that group and then we can start talking and see what God will have us do because Christ died to set us free and we're supposed to be free indeed. He has also called us to live a life of abundance, to thrive and not to strive. We'll be looking at all those things in the next number of weeks, like I said. Another thing that I would also like to say right off the bat is that marriage is work. It is work, hard work even, but it should never be abusive. You should never feel you should never feel unwanted consistently. You should never feel like a burden to your partner. Those are red flags that something is extremely wrong. Be taking time to look at all those things and tell someone who you feel, if you are not in that situation, but you know someone you feel is in that situation, please let them know that there's some help. There is help. They're not alone. Or just share this video to them and let them hear this. This is Javu. I run a psychosocial and Christian counseling practice. I offer online services under the organization Come Alive Movement. And let's do this and let's see where the Lord leads us. Alrighty.